What would you call a joy that knows no bounds? That is as solemn as it is sweet, with an outpouring of soul that connects us. Joy in resilience, joy in creativity, joy in happiness, joy in strength. What would you call a joy that knows no bounds? A joy supreme. AARP celebrates Black joy. Visit us at aarp.org/blackcommunity.
Good morning. I am delighted to welcome you once again to the 16th Annual Black Enterprise Women of Power Summit. It is so good to be back together again. I hope you're all still riding the high from last night's Legacy Awards and feeling uplifted by the inspiring words shared with us by our amazing honorees. We have so much planned for you over the next 2 days. We're going to tackle all of the things you've come to expect from Women of Power, strategies to help you advance your career, tools to help you get paid what you're worth, and lessons from some of our most successful sisters in corporate America. But this year, we've also infused the program with the content you need right now to help you navigate these uncertain times. Whether you're still trying to figure out how to live your best work-from-home life, you want to level up your executive presence even from the other side of a computer screen, or you've realized it's time for a change and you're ready to make a pandemic pivot. And now, please welcome the President and CEO of Black Enterprise, Earl Butch Graves, Jr.
Well, good morning, ladies. Did you enjoy last night's Legacy Award dinner? Well, you're going to get an opportunity this morning to hear from two of those ladies again in what was really a beautiful evening. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the 16th Annual Women of Power Summit. And these past few years, you've really shown your courage and resilience and how you are impacting and affecting change. And as much as some of that change may have been hard, these next few days are planned to fortify you. This year's theme, "The Strength is in the Sisterhood," is an invitation for you to validate, unite, and strengthen one another. And as we watch the Senate hearings that will inevitably give our nation its first Black female Supreme Court justice, please take note, and most importantly, take pride in watching one of your own eloquently demonstrate Black women's strength, or as many of you will attest, Black girl magic. Through her poise, intelligence, dignity, and a whole lot of moxie. So no matter the political climate for which we live, this is your time, and the Women of Power Summit is that place where you can remove the armor and take cover in the comfort of each other. So whether you are reconnecting with sisters from years past or here for the first time and discovering who is here, the support you will find from one another is what will inspire you to move forward and climb upward. How many of you here in this room, is this your first time at the Women of Power Summit? We're delighted to have you, and I hope you will go back and tell others to bring so we can double this next year. This year, we will leverage the secret power of sisterhood as we host conversations and workshops geared towards embracing our networks as a means to build the careers and lives we aspire for. Most importantly, what you will find is the common thread that is shared by each of you. You are all amazing Black women of power, and your decision to attend this annual summit means that you've come to learn from other powerful businesswomen. You've come to gain actionable information you can apply to your job or to your own company or to grow your network with sister executives and leaders, and even strengthen your own self-worth. So I invite you all to share your stories and your experiences and give encouragement and inspiration to each other right here, and share those same experiences by using media and by using the hashtag BEWPS. That is hashtag BEWPS. You may have also downloaded the BE Event app to receive continuous updates, session locations, and read more about these outstanding speakers. It is now my pleasure to recognize and welcome once again ADP as our title sponsor for the Women of Power Summit for the past 6 years. They are a valued partner and truly instrumental in working with us to produce an exceptional summit for each of you. Please join me in welcoming our host for this morning's Conversations that Count, President of National Account Services for ADP, Ms. Debbie Dyson.
Okay, how's the toilet paper? Just kidding. So thank you, Butch, and good morning, everyone. So hopefully everybody enjoyed last night's event. But I have to tell you again, just as I said last night, looking into the sea of familiar faces really does make me feel like we're right back home. So now I would like to formally kick us off, as ADP again is the premier sponsor of Black Enterprise for the 6th consecutive year. There is no question that year over year, we are showing up to demonstrate our commitment to high potential female leaders, with again over 20 female leaders in attendance with me today, our commitment to standing up and showing up for all things diversity, and our overall progress on continuing to elevate our voice of unity across the board. All of this is a constant and speaks strongly to one of our core values: each person counts. I would like to have Bob Lockett, ADP's Chief Diversity and Talent Officer, join me on stage, and he'll be here in a second as I'm going to stall. Bob is an outstanding partner. And Bob, gotta love Bob, and has actually attended this event as one of our male allies on many occasions. Okay, you're not coming out. Okay, so having him join me in solidarity is another, oh Lordy, okay, is yet another commitment and sign of ADP's unwavering focus to making a meaningful difference. Are you Bob? So Bob, please.
Oh man, well thank you Debbie, and good morning. Really? Hold on a second, wait, hold on a second. You know, normally when you stand in front of a mic, you gotta have some love from the sisters in the audience. I can't get any love? What's up with that? That's much better, thank you so much. I'm here today to demonstrate ADP's continued support for Black Enterprise Women of Power. Now, it's critical for us at this time in history to continue the progress Black women are making in both the public and the private sector. Now, what's really important is that each generation has a responsibility and, yes, an obligation to help the next generation grow and succeed. Now, at ADP, we coined the tagline, "Together we can and we will," as part of our DEI strategy. We did this to demonstrate a few things. First, contrary to popular belief, no one has ever achieved success without the help and support of others. Second, there is always more each of us can do to encourage and guide those who follow us. And finally, hope springs eternal. Together, we can and we will ensure that there is a level playing field for Black women, so we can show the world that our true competitive advantage lies with the phenomenally talented sisters in this room and around the globe. Enjoy the conference, and as my mother often reminded me, to whom much is given, much is expected. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie and Bob, for your continued partnership on behalf of ADP. Last night, we learned of the courageous journey taken by this morning's motivational speaker, Janice Bryant Howroyd. She emphatically represents that woman who knows her worth, owns her truth, and as one who has been recognized historically as a first, most certainly embraces her power. This morning, she's going to offer some motivational food for thought, then open the floor to ask for your questions. We want to make sure, though, that we don't crowd the mics, so if you could limit it to 3 people at the mic at a time. We're still trying to do a little bit of social distancing here. Our time is limited, so make your questions quick and to the point, ladies. Now, please welcome back Black Enterprise's 2022 Barbara Graves Legacy Award honoree, Janice Bryant Howroyd.
Good morning. It's so great. Hey, that music is just pumping, right? It's so great to be up here this morning and to be able to hug people again because we are COVID protocol ready. You know, Black Enterprise's theme, "The Strength is in the Sisterhood," is really important to me. And a definition of sisterhood is the solidarity of women based on shared conditions, experiences, or concerns. And oftentimes, it's our sisterhood that allows us to endure anything and the many things of our lives. And so our sisters in this sense can be our friends, our co-workers, the rosters of organizations we belong to. If we are richly blessed, for many of us, our original and enduring sisterhoods are comprised of the women who birth, nurture, and love us from infancy through now. And so even when these sisters are no longer on earth with us, their guiding lights sustain us. They are enabling us to endure times such as we've all come through now. And truly our sisters help us to endure. Now the dictionary gives us the general meaning of endurance as the act of working very hard without stopping, even in the face of difficult situations of pain. Anybody relating to that? And when we speak biblically, endurance means that we are rightly handling God's word. Now, it's very, very important to women of faith, women of power, that God's word be our wisdom and our guide. God's word gives us an endurance that allows us to be lights one to the other, no matter what the conditions of our neighborhoods, so long as our sisterhoods are intact. Amen? And it is having enduring sisterhoods that support us to be ready for very good work. And this endurance requires that we take care of ourselves as we give care to others, sisters. Endurance requires something of us. It requires us to ask ourselves, will what got me here get me there? Now, be there anyone here who does not follow the teachings of Jesus the Christ, regardless of your faith, please allow me, you're welcome, to speak from my truth for a moment. And I pray it inspires you. You see, last evening, I spoke to you all as I received the honor of being shared the Barbara Graves Award, saying that I came to you in the spirit of Paul. Remember? And I shared with you that when Paul wrote a thank you to the Philippines, his letter is a lesson and a light for all who face hardships, to live with humility, love, and service, and hope beyond it all. Specifically, Paul encouraged the Philippians that even though they endured hardships, hearings with no justice in them, that their lives as Christians should be consistent with Jesus' example, as he gave himself to earth in love for one another. And Jesus taught us love, enduring love, love that has caused us all to react to every moment of the hearing of Ketanji Brown Jackson, because she is our sister and we are hers. So did you watch as the praying women of Congress, those members of Congress who sat back and they sat vigil with their Bibles and their cell phones in hand for every second of her hearing just to have her back? Did you see that? And did you, as I did, take the hearings so that you could follow every word, praying along and watching, being a part of history, even as some would have us be apart from it? So C-SPAN was my channel of choice, and I'm not shouting them out for any other reason than I just did not want the noise of commentary to interrupt my hearing, my watching, nor my praying. And Ketanji became my sister, and I became auntie to her beautiful daughters as they too had her back in that room. Amen? And Women of Power has given rise over these 16 years to so many sisters being strengthened by sisterhood. Receiving the Barbara Graves Award for me, well, that was a welcome into this sisterhood of Women of Power. And it was also my call to action. Not just the signatory glow at the conclusion of a job that I may have well done. As last night progressed to early this morning, I've been congratulated in DMs, texts, emails, and calls from all points of the earth, cheering me for having reached the pinnacle of success. But you know what? After expressing gratitude for these expressions of celebration and love, I asked myself, am I done? Can I now go get COVID comfortable, kick my Altazura crystal heels off, let it go, and finally tell a few people who I've met along the way to stuff it? No longer do you tell me and have me listen to you that because I was not born to it, I've got no right to it. I am a Barbara Graves Award recipient. Winning acknowledgement from Black Enterprise is pretty big stuff before you laugh. Now, I am in a 1,200 strong sisterhood that's growing, yes? And growing because each of us here is a clarion to the little sisters coming behind us. All the beautiful evening in this room last night was wonderful for me. And afterwards, my birth baby sister Trish right there trying to film me, and my boss executive aide Christy backstage having my back right now. We went to my suite and we enjoyed an afterglow. Oh yeah, we enjoyed an afterglow. And during that precious time, just about 3 hours ago it finished, y'all, I landed myself in the truth that the Barbara Graves Award is an honor for enduring, not for having arrived, enduring with grace as Barbara did, and being a beacon of light to every little sister and sisterhood along our journey. You see, we need to give a moment right now and answer this question for yourselves. Who is providing a light for you this morning? In the quiet and calm of this room, I want you to just pause a moment. Pause. Call their names out right now. I'm calling mine: Trish Bryant, Christy Pittman, El Retha. My list is long. Call it out. Let us hear you. I hear you. I hear you. We want to hear the names of these sisters. You know when Pastor says, give me a moment and just shout it out till the rafters fall? Shout somebody's name. Yes, these sisters and brothers whose names you may have called, their names and faces have come to your mind on this beautiful morning in this gorgeous place Bush and Black Enterprise have gathered us to, because you deserve to give them love, and they deserve your gratitude and honor on the stages of your life, at every stage in your life. The names you've called out and that I have called out belong to sisters and brothers who deserve that we honor them while they are here to witness it and to be loved by it while they are still on this earth journey. Now, Butch, I know you're backstage, and you honor your father and your mother, our sister Barbara, by the elegance and determination you bring to fearlessly championing us in our sisterhood. And you are brave and proud and confident and guiding in your support of us. Your manhood is not threatened by our sisterhood. You give strength and gain strength from this Women of Power sisterhood. And sisters, my call to action for you last evening as I left the podium was to leave this room with as clear a picture as possible of what work you have to do, not the tasks of your job and your daily existence, but the work of your life. The work that will best be defined how you have endured. Your sisterhood will be vital to your success at every stage of your life. And your neighborhoods tell us a pretty good job about your earthly success, but your sisterhood tells us everything about your spiritual success. So I'm going to pause right now and remind us all that some of the beautiful honorees of the Women of Power whose images we saw scrolled across the screens in the room last night, well, they're no longer on this earthly journey with us, yet their impact is felt and benefited by all, especially us in this room. So let us honor them too, all right? Let us honor them too. With a special honor for the mother of this moment, Barbara Graves. All of the Black Enterprise Women of Power have provided lights for us to endure in our sisterhoods. So I ask you this question now. Who are you lighting the way for? Will you be satisfied to be a light for your family, your co-workers, your employees, your employers, your church, your neighborhood, your sisterhood? You know, asked recently how I find the strength to and the clarity to endure when I'm in my lone hours. I shared that I go back to a poem my father insisted my siblings and I learned at 4th grade. You may have seen me do this on YouTube. It is by Rudyard Kipling and entitled If. Everybody, I want you to understand that I'm choosing editorial privilege to make the poem more consistent with these times that warrant gender inclusion. So if you already know the poem, you're going to recognize as such. But please, just everybody, close your eyes right now. Waiters, stand still. Close yours too. I want you to listen as I share with you. Come on, find your quiet and acceptance, please. Everybody go quiet, because this is our moment of oneness together. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all people doubt you but make allowances for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting or being lied about, don't give in to lies or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet you ain't got to look too good and always talk too wise. If you dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make those thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves, Republicans, and make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, then just stoop down, build them up with your worn out tools, and if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, lose, ladies, and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except that will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings and queens, nor lose your common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all people count with you but not one too much, and if you can fill one unforgiving minute of 60 seconds worth of distance run, ladies, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and what's more, in life and sisterhood, you will have won. Amen and thank you. Amen and thank you. I don't see a timer. I don't know where we are in time, so either get your Apollo hook and pull me off, or somebody ask me a question. Look, I don't sing. Well, yes, my sister corrected me. I do sing, I just don't sound that good. So y'all got to help me out. Are we asking questions, or am I saying so long? We got time for a question, she said. Ask your question. Who's that mic?
I'm at a mic right here. I don't need a mic. Oops. It's on now. Good morning and congratulations. My name's Carithia Oates. I'm actually a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. And I'm a Christian financial advisor. I'm a certified kingdom advisor. I only say that because I loved what you said about Paul last night and talked about this morning. And I had to know you were a woman of faith to get to where you are. That's my dream, to 10x my business. So my question to you is, you found that beautiful poem, which I pulled up off the internet, and I'm going to keep that for myself, because it's a difficult world we're in, the financial industry.
And your question is?
My question to you is, how did you find that poem, and how did you come about to use that particular poem? Because you
As I shared when I was speaking, my dad made each of my 10 siblings and me learn it at 4th grade while he was alive. My sister Trish, who is here, was not at 4th grade, and so we've shared it on with her. But he felt it was going to be very important for us. See, I'm one of those children pre-civil rights. He felt it was going to be very important for us to own our own truths and not allow others to present theirs to us and impact us in negative ways. So I got to give shout outs to my daddy for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's an afro. One more question and then I'm off.
Hi.
Hey.
I'm Kylie Russell. I am the CEO and founder of Priceless One Management, which is a staffing agency. So I definitely
A
look up
sister
to
in the
you.
real sense.
Yes. I wanted to know, like, what was your breakthrough to growth? Because I'm at a time where I'm really trying to grow and scale. And what was that moment for you? What did you do to just really grow your company, to just make yourself into who you are today and to stand on the stage?
You know, growth is kaleidoscopic and it's multifaceted. Okay, it's kaleidoscopic in that the light from you as you grow, it waters others, it sees others for their growth. And it's multifaceted in that we grow in different ways at different times. Knowing where do you recall when I just shared with you that you've got to step back sometimes and ask yourself, well, what got me here, get me there? That's how I've done it. But the moment it is that you're asking, hold off on an applause because I want to finish this answer for you. Listen, the multifacetedness of it, you're going to grow personally and you're going to grow professionally. My personal mantra is never compromise who you are personally to become who you wish to be professionally, because when you go to bed at night, you got a conscience. Okay? See, God gives us two things to keep us steadfast. God gives us intuition. And in times of trial, oftentimes we fall to our lesser selves and we lose that touch to intuition. But God's got our back and gives us conscience and allows us to revisit our day, our act, our deed, our saying, so that we can make correction. For me, the biggest change happened when my daughter, who was ready to go off to Harvard at 13 years of age, came into my bathroom where I do all my best thinking and said, Mama, why are y'all sending me away? And that sister Trish I'm telling you about right there said, listen, do you realize that her name is Kay? Do you realize that Kay could become a manager of a factory in the next 5 years? She's got skills, she's got talent, she's got intuition. So what is going to university doing for her? And we pulled that decision back and found one for her closer to home. And we didn't let her graduate with the brand of Harvard, where I now serve on a board, but we allowed her to go to USC. Fight on. And I got to tell you, for me, she told me I needed to example for her what I had been telling her. She heard me deny my strength and my beauty when people would speak to it, and I'd do my southern thing and go shy and step back. And she'd tell me, that's not what you're telling me to do, nor is that telling what who you're telling me to be. And so my daughter, as I shared, looking at Katanji's daughters and that look they had on her, that look all of us want our children and our friends and young people to have on us, that look my daughter gave me when she asked me to be who I was asking her to be, it changed my life phenomenally. And that's when I decided that I would forgive myself for being black, female, and smart all at the same time. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies, stand in your truth, stand in your strength. God bless you, and let me hold the right hand up as I get somebody who's a believer with me to say amen. Love you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Director of Audience Development at Black Enterprise, Lula Duwale.
Wow, that was incredible, right, ladies? Let's give her another round of applause for Janice. Good morning, ladies. I'm Lula Duwale, Director of Audience Development for Black Enterprise, and it is my great pleasure to be with you all today in the Sisterhood at Women of Power Summit. I joined Black Enterprise during the pandemic, and I was so enthusiastic and hopeful that one day I would have the opportunity to be at this premier event with all of you ladies here today. I'm truly happy that I've finally made it. So just before I introduce our esteemed panelists for this morning's Conversations That Count, Fighting for Justice and Equality, I'd like to share several housekeeping items. Be sure to visit the sponsor expo, including visiting the ADP booth, for your chance to win Apple AirPods and enjoy a healthy drink at the Equitables Juice Bar, and a chance to enter to win a Telfar bag, ladies. If you need a place to stop and gather yourself and recharge, we have the perfect spot for you, the Power Up Lounge in Grand Ballroom 3. While you're there, make some time to make a new connection and join dynamic networking conversations. Be sure to keep your appointments for your one-on-one financial coaching and executive career coaching sessions, hosted by Morgan Stanley in the Van Gogh Room. Download the Black Enterprise Events app. This app will allow you to access full event schedules, browse the event social media updates, receive information on all the speakers taking part in the summit, as well as develop a personal event planner. To keep fully up to date with the latest developments through a link to the BEWPS social media tag. Make sure you tag that, ladies. Don't forget that. You will also receive push notifications in the event rooms changing. Use the hashtag BESummit and follow Black Enterprise on social media to access exclusive content. Click on the social media icon in the BE Events app. Lastly, don't miss this afternoon's Power Lunch hosted by Prudential. We will celebrate the incomparable Dionne Warwick as she receives Black Enterprise Legacy Award and then sits down to talk to us about her incredible career and the lessons she's learned along the way. There will also be a dynamic discussion on how to get on a corporate board. You don't want to miss that. Now, let's get started. This morning's Conversations That Count, Fighting for Justice and Equality, features two dynamic panelists who will inform, inspire us, and these days, in endless dissension, even get you engaged. Both are powerhouse attorneys who have fought for equity, and battled against voter suppression and racial discrimination and beyond. They are the epitome of good trouble, always, forever, fighting the good fight. Please welcome the sisters on the front line, fighting for justice and equality, the CEO of Dress for Success Worldwide, Michelle C. Mayer-Shipp, and the President and Director Counsel of the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund, Inc., and the 2022 Legacy Award honoree, Sherrilyn Ifill.
Good morning, ladies. Come on, give it up. Good morning. Great to see everybody. Did you get some rest last night? I hope so, because I know I did. I was so tired. It's really great to see everybody here this morning, and I am honored and privileged. First of all, Charlotte, do you see all these beautiful people out here?
I do.
I just need a minute. This is amazing. I mean, God bless all of you. It's really, really amazing to see you and to be back together with the Women of Power Summit. So thanks for being here. I am honored and privileged to be able to have this conversation this morning with you, Sherrilyn. I mean, I have to tell you, when Butch called me up and asked me to interview you, I was dumbfounded. I am in awe of you.
Oh.
You are amazing.
Thank you.
Last night, as I listened to you tell us a little bit of your story to tee up this conversation, I had goosebumps.
So I want to have a conversation with you in this very small, intimate room with just a few of our sisters and
girlfriends,
a few good brothers. And let's just dig in a little bit more to the conversation we had last night. Let's start with your upbringing and how you got to where you are. And by the way, I usually don't take notes, but I took notes this time because I knew I would go off script otherwise. Last night you talked about having a passion for civil rights since you were a little girl. How did you come to this work? What was it in your upbringing, your education, your family? How did you get to this place where you were committed to this work?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. I am in awe of you and of everyone sitting out here so early in the morning. I really appreciate you all filling this room with warmth. You know, we are all the sum of all the parts, you know. And one of the great things I think about getting older is that you're able to kind of look back and see the journey a little bit. You know, I shared last night, I come from a fairly large family, 10 kids. We lost our mom when I was quite young, and obviously that's a life-changing experience. And so my dad was very much the head of the house, you know, household, even after he remarried. And my father was kind of a race man. You know, he was very politically minded. He became a social worker in Harlem. And in that period of time, I guess the FCC rules were different. There were so many programs on television about black people, about black history, about the civil rights movement. And we watched all of them. And in fact, I loved it so much, my father would call me if something was on. You know, he would say, come down and see this or that. But he would especially call me if there was a woman who was doing something kind of in the political realm. And so that was a period when Shirley Chisholm, you know, ran for president. I remember there was a city councilwoman in Los Angeles, Yvonne Brathwaite Burke, and of course Barbara Jordan, who we saw in the film last night. And my father would call me whenever they were, you know, on television. So for me, I had this kind of passion and interest in social justice, and we were a big news family. We watched the news every night. There were 3 newspapers on the table at all times. And so then seeing these women, and particularly Barbara Jordan, I thought, this is the kind of woman I want to be. I want to be the person who has moral authority and who uses it, particularly for me, to advance my own community. And so I talked about being a civil rights lawyer from the time I was quite young.
Wow.
And it happened.
That is incredible. So it's actually funny. I mean, one of the things I talk about a lot as I'm mentoring, you know, the generation coming up behind me is you have to see it to be it. So you just gave a great example of you saw it in many instances and you became it. So
yeah, I don't suffer from imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I mean, I do feel like I'm supposed to be in the rooms that I'm in, you know? And one of the things I will say that I now realize was very important to me in terms of who I was in the family and my dad. So I'm the youngest of the 10 kids, and, you know, a bit precocious, shall we say. But one of the things that I realized with my dad, which to me didn't seem like a big deal at the time because I just kind of accepted it, was that he made clear that he thought I was really smart, and he was very emotionally distant. So that, you know, our place of meeting was around politics and stuff. But he showed me that he expected me to do great things. And so there was never a sense of limitation for me as a girl or as a woman. And I just kind of followed that path. I think you can find your way sometimes. You may not know when you're very young, you know, what you want to do.
That's right.
But for me, I did. In fact, this is the first moment in my life where I don't know what the next thing is.
This is the first time ever, huh? All right. All right. So let me ask you this. So you just said you did not have the imposter syndrome, right?
No.
A lot of women do.
Yeah.
And we spend a lot of time in our corporations talking about the imposter syndrome. So what advice would you give to anybody out there who is struggling with that voice that keeps telling her she may not belong?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's 2 elements to this. So first of all, probably like most of you and your families, you were raised to believe you're better. I mean, I don't remember someone saying that to me, but that was the implicit message that I was getting, certainly in the context of race, for sure. But I think for me, it's also about your own preparation and excellence. I mean, you can't just walk into any room and say, I'm supposed to be here, right? You actually have to prepare, right? So there's a little work involved. And so I don't want to make it like it's so easy. You know, it isn't. But once you have done the preparation, that's the key. I mean, that's what really carries you. And that's really the coin of the realm at LDF for our, amazing staff of lawyers and activists. We're so hyper prepared.
You're ready. You're ready.
I say all the time when we go to trial that I don't actually care whether the judge is conservative or not. If we get a chance to actually try our case, I like our chances.
So let's talk about this for a minute. So you spent 10 years at LDF, and you mentioned last night, you actually set this up perfectly for this discussion this morning. You talked about 2020 being the most tumultuous time that you had.
Okay.
Thanks. During that period. It was exhausting. It was hard. I mean, we had so much upheaval. Like, how did you navigate that? How did you lead your team? How did you keep them motivated? How did you keep yourself strong and empowered?
Well, it's a great question. There were actually two moments, maybe three. This was a pretty strenuous tenure for civil rights over the last, 10 or so years. And I remember when I was offered the job and I was wringing my hands because I knew what it would mean. I knew I would have to throw myself into this thing. And I remember Elaine Jones, who was the former director counsel. She was the first woman director counsel of the Legal Defense Fund. I'm the second woman. And she told me, Sherilyn, you are the right leader for such a time as this. And I can tell you that looking back over the last 10 years, I was the absolute right person for LDF for that 10-year period. The first crisis that was incredibly tumultuous were the beginning of the cell phone video presentations of black men, being killed, unarmed black men being killed by police officers. And we have been working on this issue for decades. When I was a girl in Queens, Clifford Glover was killed. I was 10, he was 10. He was killed by the NYPD. So this is something we've been exposed to our whole lives. But obviously the videos, first beginning with Eric Garner saying, I can't breathe in New York, and then the uprising in Ferguson, where young people were really activated around the killing of Mike Brown, really started a kind of a movement and a moment. And watching those videos was incredibly difficult. Actually, for my staff, and I felt I needed to really cover all the bases to make sure that we were in the right lane when we were talking about this really contentious issue. And I was really quite fine with it. The worst period, however, was one 48-hour period in which Alton Sterling was killed in Louisiana, and we were looking at the different videos very late one night, and then I was, just watching what was happening on social media, and I said, I think there's another one. And my staff started looking, everybody was tired. I said, you all go to bed, I'll look at it. And it was Philando Castile. And I remember I stayed up the whole night because I was trying to find his fiancée, who you remember was in the car with her baby girl. And so I was calling hospitals, pulling all my contacts in the St. Paul area. I didn't sleep. And when I finally sat up in the morning, my phone was filled with all these requests from media. And that was the one day I said, I am not going to sit on a stool and talk in a TV studio. I can't. Whatever I'm going to say is not probably what I should say. And so I said, I need to be in St. Paul. It's the one and only time I've flown Spirit Airlines because that was the only seat I could get. I don't even want to talk about it, really, seriously. It was like, whoa. But I had to get to St. Paul. It was the only flight I could get that morning.
By whatever means.
Only that one time. And so that was like an incredibly difficult time. 2016 was the second time when Trump was elected. We did not expect it. In fact, I remember I had been doing election protection work in Alabama on election day, going from polling place to polling place. And then I was going to fly home in the evening. I flew back to Washington, D.C. I said, you know what? This will probably be the election of the first woman president. Let me be with my oldest daughter. And so I flew to be with her. And it didn't happen, of course. But most importantly, I knew what it would mean for my staff. I didn't sleep the whole night. And I said, I have to get back to New York. And so I got to New York. We had an all-staff meeting. And I had to figure out how to inspire. You know, there were tears. People were concerned. The LGBTQ members of our staff, the families with, you know, immigrant members of their family. I mean, this was personally beyond our work. We knew what it was going to mean for our work, but it was personally difficult. And so I had to inspire them. And then I thought about the larger world and what was the message. And my deputy, who will be the new leader of LDF, said, you know, what you just said to me, you should film it. So I filmed a video that we put on social media that went viral. And I still remember the last line of it. I just sat down and wrote it. And the last line of the video was, and we're not going anywhere. Because remember, people were saying, I'm moving to Canada. And I was like, hell no, we ain't going nowhere. So Trump then almost immediately announced that Jeff Sessions would be his attorney general. And so I was like, okay, it's on. And I remember I immediately put together a proposal for how LDF would become a private DOJ, a private Department of Justice. And people like Melody Hobson and others were willing to invest in that vision. And that's how we were able to staff up and do the work we needed to do during the Trump administration. I had to be clear with the staff that we had to tighten up everything in the organization. We knew that he, you know, is a vindictive person and that we were going to do things that LDF had not done before. We don't take it lightly. You know, suing, you know, 7 cabinet secretaries and suing the president. You know, we knew what we were exposing ourselves to. We had to strengthen our you know, cybersecurity, our personal security.
That's right.
Everything. And that's how we endured for those 4 years. And then 2020 came, and we knew it would be a big year because of the election and because of our voter protection work. But we did not expect COVID. And the turning point for me was the first week of April in 2020. We had already, you know, gone remote, and I will tell you, we were one of the earliest to go remote because I just made the decision. And that's also about just leadership and protecting your people and your people seeing you protect them. We're based in New York, and I saw our governor, Andrew Cuomo, and our mayor, Bill de Blasio, kind of in a little male tussle, and I said, no, we're going, we gotta go. And we went remote. Obviously, we'd never done this before. The first week of April was the presidential primary in Wisconsin. And there was an effort to try to extend the time for absentee voting, which the Supreme Court turned back on its shadow docket. And so Election Day came, and there were these pictures of black people in Milwaukee standing in these long lines with masks on, in my view, literally risking their lives to vote. I knew they were risking their lives because the same day as the primary, a news story had come out showing that although black people constitute 28% of the population of Milwaukee, they were 85% of the COVID deaths.
Wow.
So people were literally, now why were they standing on those lines? Only 5 polling sites were open in Milwaukee, which normally has 185, because seniors who normally work the polls were understandably calling out because of COVID. So I have said this before, when I saw those pictures, I became radicalized. I wrote a piece in Slate about it, about just that vision of the nobility of black people who in the past had risked their lives to vote, and now we're doing it again. So we decided that we were going to litigate to try to extend absentee voting in a variety of southern states. We decided that we needed an effort to try to recruit young poll workers so that our seniors could stay home. We ended up in a collaboration with LeBron James, who created an organization called More Than a Vote after George Floyd was killed. And together we worked and we recruited 40,000 new polling workers so that our seniors could stay home and polls could stay open. We litigated in 5 states to extend absentee voting. We did the darn thing. We did everything we needed to. I told you about suing the Postal Service. We did whatever we needed to do to make sure that black people could cast their votes and do it as safely as possible. We absolutely exhausted ourselves, but the feeling of knowing that we had left it all on the field, there's nothing I feel that we didn't do in 2020. And the result was the highest turnout that we've ever seen. Don't let people say, oh, since 1916. 1916, women couldn't vote, and most black people couldn't vote. This was the highest turnout in a presidential election ever. It was incredibly consequential, and I know that LDF played a role in saving American democracy. And that's important. In part because in part because one of the goals I had when I took the job was that I found this in my report to the board the first year at our annual meeting. I just shared it with the board at my last meeting with them. And I had talked about wanting to recast civil rights as democracy work and to move it into the center of the conversation. Civil rights work is not something that we do on the side to help black people. Everything about civil rights work makes America better. Makes America better. And I felt that we were being ghettoized, as though what we were doing was something over here and then like America solving America's problems. No, we changed the course of American democracy in the 20th century with Brown versus Board of Education. We literally changed the course of American democracy. I talked with you about the litigation last night on behalf of women with school-aged children. We did all of that work, and we don't get credit for it. And when I'm sitting in rooms full of business people who are not you, but who are white men and captains of industry, I tell them, you owe us.
Yes.
You owe us. Because when you travel around the world and you're an American businessman, that carries with it an imprimatur of a country that is a place of equality and opportunity and all the stuff we say out in the world, no matter what's happening back at home. But who gave you that story? How did you get that story? You got that story because some people were beaten on a bridge, they didn't give up, they continued marching.
That's right.
You got that because some little children were willing to walk alone into a school full of hostile white people. That's how you got it. It wasn't free. And we have never calculated the dividend of what we have given to America in terms of reputation and global authority and power.
So Sharon, let me ask you this. So there are so many, I mean, you have done so much, and LDF has done so much, but there's still so much to do. I mean, it's exhausting, right? So, you know, as you look out here at all of these beautiful sisters with, I mean, the amazing women and a few good men, right? What should we all be focused on? I mean, and what can we do? There's so much. I mean, you gave us a great call to action last night in making our calls to our senators, right? But what should we be doing on the ground day in and day out? I mean, there are voter suppression, police brutality, racial discrimination in our workplaces, in our communities, all these disparities. How can each of us make a difference, and where should we focus?
It's a good question because, you know, I try always to talk to civilians. By civilians, I mean people who don't do what I do for a living, who don't do this 24/7. And you have to do your jobs and live your lives. And so you can't, I'm not asking you to do my job any more than you would ask me to do your job. But there is citizenship work to do.
Yes.
And this is kind of what, you know, I'm getting ready to write a book, and part of it is going to be about, well, it's frankly going to be about the way in which America's ongoing embrace of racism and white supremacy literally is threatening our democracy itself. But it's also going to be about how we reimagine what it means to be a citizen. And citizen here, I don't mean in that you have papers, you know, that show you're a citizen. I mean what it means to be an engaged and responsible part of a community. And I think we have been a little bit too weak with what we think that means. I'm sure that everyone in this room is registered to vote. If you're not, don't even tell me, because we don't want to do that. But I'm sure everyone's registered to vote, and I'm sure you do vote. But since we're here in this private little room, just, you know, girlfriends and a few good men talking, let's keep it real, okay? I'm betting that you absolutely vote every 4 years. I'm sure you do. I'm betting also that most of you don't vote every year. There are elections every year. There are elections for the school board, for the town council, for the Public Safety Commission, for the Railroad Commissioner. All of these offices, and you can see it now because of this so-called anti-CRT movement in the school boards, that they matter. That's when the district judges run. That's when the sheriffs run, right? And my mantra has been, leave no power on the table.
That's right.
And we have left too much power on the table. We have allowed ourselves to be convinced that elections happen every 4 years.
That's right.
And unfortunately, that has left power for others to take who are controlling our lives. So the first thing, the easiest thing you can do is actually vote, and vote in a way in which you know who you're voting for. Because the other thing we do, and I'm including myself in this, I've done it. You go in the booth, you vote for the senator, the governor, the mayor, maybe your city council person. Then there are judicial elections, and it says, pick 3. Now you don't know who any of the 3 are, really. You don't know anything about them. I mean, has it happened to you? It's happened to me, right? And maybe you know one. And so you pick 3, maybe you pick because of the D or the R next to their name, whatever is your party affiliation, right? But again, you are giving away power. You have no idea. You haven't done the research before you went into the polling place. The sheriff, the power of the sheriff. Do you know that there's a movement afoot now of these Trumpy sheriffs who believe that they are the only real law enforcement authority in this country and that they are being activated around this voting and election stuff? Like those offices are critically important. And those of you who have power in your own communities, that's where you need to be using the power. You need to be having a candidate forum. You need to be going to the candidate forums. You need to be educating yourselves about who these people are. So I need you to vote smart, and I need you to vote thoroughly down the whole ballot, and make sure that you don't give away your power. And then after that, I would just say, even then, we still have obligations to keep our eye out, to do what I asked you to do, calling your senators. I'm going to give you the number again, because it should be just in your phone. 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121. There's really no reason that you can't call your senator every other week.
Yep.
I mean, what's your roster of issues that you care about, whether it's judges, whether it's confirmation, whether it's you Build Back Better, whether it's the voting legislation, whatever it is, you have to be an engaged citizen. Maybe for you, it's that you go to city council meetings, or maybe you go to a school board meeting. Just them seeing you sitting there is going to change the dynamic in the room. But instead, what we do is we vote, and then we just go off about our business and leave it to them to decide how they're going to exercise that power. So I'm really calling us to a much more engaged way of being citizens and of using our power. This is a power summit. This is what I was saying last night. Either we have power or we don't. If we have power, we should be using it. Power can sometimes be presence. It can sometimes be voting. It can sometimes be running for office. But we are not using all the power that we have. And as a result, others are using it for us.
You know, it's funny. I think you also said something that I want to make sure everybody heard it. You talked about us getting educated and knowing our facts. And I think we leave a lot of that on the table, not only when we go to the ballot. I mean, just 2 weeks ago, I was asked to moderate a panel for the UN on racism and black women and the impact of climate change on black women. And when I was asked to do this panel, I thought, now I never thought about that issue. And then I started to research it and peel back the onion. And, you know, if you all don't know it, do your research on that topic too, because the environmental issues are impacting us more than any other group around the world.
Yes, absolutely. Globally, for sure.
Globally.
And also in this country. You know, and as it becomes more feral and desperate, as people try to get to higher ground and get to places where it's going to impact our communities. Very often the communities that they herded us to are the places that they are now coming to because the property that's at the beachfront or at the water, you know, is dangerous. And so all of these issues, we just have to be, you know, when I was growing up, you know, you woke up and you read the newspaper, you know.
That's right.
And it didn't matter what your job was, you read the newspaper. And I think we have to do the same thing. I'm very conscious of this with my Twitter feed. It's one of the reasons why I'm so ubiquitous on Twitter is that I feel like people need places where they know there's good information and information that they can trust. And so you can follow me on Twitter, you can follow the Legal Defense Fund, but you have to decide that you're going to engage with these other ideas and be aware of what's going on.
2 last questions for you, and then we'll open it up. I want to get personal for a minute, okay? So we just talked about all of these issues that you've had to navigate. It's personal, you know, it was your job. How do you withstand on your, like, internally, mentally, emotionally? Because one of the things we know, even during the pandemic, they talked about the increase in depression and anxiety among black women in particular. I mean, it went up generally, but for black women, because we're carrying everything and everyone, you have been carrying some serious stuff, right? How do you sustain yourself and your spirit?
You know, well, I guess two things. One is, you know, the back room of your life, right? Your family, you know, my family, my faith. You know, before I come out on a stage, I'm always saying 3 prayers in my head. You know, asking God, let me not shame you, let me not shame my people, let me not shame my family. Those are my 3 things at all times. So knowing that my family is proud of me, having them at my back, super important. My faith, super important. Feeling like I am walking in what is my assignment is awesome. The second thing is I get to do this work with amazing people. You know, I do believe there are more of us than there are of them. When I say that, I mean people committed to equality and justice and dignity and love, and so I get to do the work with amazing people. And I also feel like I'm really good at it. And I have to say, there's a joy in that.
That's great.
You know, even when it's incredibly hard, I never feel like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? You know I do know what to do.
Yes.
And that's an incredible feeling as well. I have my moments. I was really, really angry at the confirmation hearing the other day.
Yeah.
You know, so I have those moments of incredible just, you know, because I kind of feel like enough is enough, you know?
That's right.
I'm kind of just over it,
Yep.
you know? So there are those moments. There are moments when America keeps revealing itself, and much of what it's revealing is quite, you know, horrifying. And so there are moments when I always say I'm never surprised, but there are moments when I'm, you know, when the mom of Kyle Rittenhouse went to a Republican dinner, you know, a few weeks after he killed those 2 people, and she was greeted with a standing ovation. Even I was like, so I thought it was kind of a shared thing that we didn't want our children to like kill people. I didn't think that was like a Democratic thing or a black thing or the idea of making this young man a hero. He's done something traumatic. He is traumatized even if he doesn't know it. And unfortunately, without treating it as trauma, it may turn into something quite ugly and likely will. But that was a moment where I was just like, you know, come on. January 6th didn't freak me out. What freaked me out was 2 weeks later, you know, everybody at least in one political party saying it was okay, and it was just like Taurus. Like that stuff really did disturb me. But I will say the last thing is, when these terrible things happen, I am painfully aware that they are a response to our power. If you look at what happened in 2021 with all the voter suppression laws, they were a response to what we did in 2020 when I just said we just laid it out. They were a response. So we had the highest turnout in the presidential election, and then we turned around, and of the 5 million black people who voted in that Georgia presidential election in November, 97% of them came back out for the special election, and that's unheard of. That's unheard of. That's unheard of. So when Georgia then, you know, passes its voter suppression law in March, it's a response. You know it's a response because why else would you have in that law a provision that makes it a crime to give water to somebody standing on line to vote? Why? Because they know that in Fulton County, Georgia, in the presidential primary, black people stood on line for 9 hours to vote. So it is responsive to precisely the anti-CRT legislation. It is not anti-CRT. If you read the legislation, it tries to prohibit teaching about subjects that might cause feelings of discomfort, guilt, or shame on account of race or sex. Why? It is a response to the outpouring that happened after George Floyd was killed, when white people went out on the street. It was the largest multiracial protest in the history of this country, the largest civil rights protest in all 50 states in June of 2020. And that scared them. Because it showed that when empathy is awakened within white people, they too will risk going out on the street and getting beaten by police to stand for what's right.
That scares
So
me.
now what they've decided is they want to turn off that valve for their children. They want to turn off the empathy valve so that their children cannot engage with the truth about this history that might awaken their sense of empathy, their sense of compassion. It's diabolical, but it is responsive to our power. And if we don't get that straight and understand that that is what's happening, we'll just be like, oh my gosh, look at what they're doing, look at what they're doing. They're doing it because they're shook.
They're scared. That's
they're
right.
shook.
Yep. So we have to keep pushing, keep pushing, keep
and that
pushing,
keeps
keep
you
pushing.
then feeling focused because you don't feel weak.
That's right.
You operate from a place of strength because you understand that they are coming against
In response.
the strength that you've shown.
So let me ask you this. So where do you think, you did an article, you were interviewed in an article in the New York Times last weekend about the state of democracy. And I found that quite interesting there. You know, tell us, where do you think we are and where are we going?
We are in an incredibly perilous moment. An incredibly perilous moment. I always feel compelled to tell this to people because, you know, I remember sitting in Ocean Prime in 2020, before the pandemic, having lunch, which is right across the street from LDF's Washington, D.C. office. And I remember saying to the person I was sitting with, understand, because at that point we hadn't had the 2020 election yet, I said, understand, this country can become an authoritarian country. You and I will still be able to have lunch at Ocean Prime, right?
Right.
But it won't be a democracy. And I think people get it confused. We think, they'll let you have this conference. And that's how we get seduced into believing that we are not in peril and in danger. We are in peril and in danger. And what makes this moment particularly difficult, as you can see from what's happening in Europe right now, that this is a global authoritarian moment, right? It's not just in this country.
That's right.
And so, you know, and that's what social media has brought us. They have crossed the streams. So if you think that it's irrelevant whether or not we're a democracy, I have news for you. It is not irrelevant, especially for us, because you see the features of authoritarian regimes, what they look like, the kind of people they like and the kind of people they don't like. And so I think when you see what's happening in this country, it's not like something, oh, it's coming. It's happening. When you see them passing these anti-LGBTQ laws and banning books and deciding what teachers can teach and making teachers afraid and wanting children in Virginia to snitch on teachers and say whether they're teaching some divisive concept. Racism is a divisive concept. They don't want you to teach that it's real, that it really happens. When you see that, when you see voter suppression, when you see the return to the same rhetoric about police that we saw before 2015, and you see the police killings continuing, and you see no George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, which we fought for a year, understand those are the features. If you saw them in another country, you would know exactly what they were. Why do you think that when they're happening here, they are not signs of something incredibly dangerous? So I do think people have to wake up and understand that we are going to have to fight. We weren't able to get the voting rights legislation that we wanted. That means we have to somehow overcome, even more so than we did in 2020.
Yep.
Because we didn't have those voter suppression laws. We have to actually overcome, we have to overwhelm the way in which they are trying to silence us. And it begins this year. It's not about 2024, it's about 2022. So this year, get prepared to engage. Your primary elections are coming up. Terrible decision from the Supreme Court this week around redistricting. Yes. And that is about our power for the next decade. So this is a very serious thing. And they will palm us off by letting some of us be successful. But it doesn't mean that the plan they have for this country is not total control and basically just hollowing out this democracy for their own aggrandizement. And with it comes violence. With it comes further segregation. With it comes cruelty. This thing that Trump unlocked, it was a door that one of the successes of the civil rights movement is that we had successfully created shame around racism. Trump said, you don't have to be ashamed. Grab them by the whatever, you know, get those SOBs up off their knees. You just say whatever you want to say. And they liked it. It felt liberating. And they're addicted to it. That's why they like the coarse language, the cruelty, the vulgarity, and when they see it happen, as they saw it happen, what is dangerous about those confirmation hearings, when you hear the vehemence with which these white men wanted to talk about in detail pornography and the mechanics of partial birth abortion and penalties for rape to this black judge, who has to deal with this in her job, in a professional way, and already said, I still have nightmares about some of the facts of these cases, that when they wanted to keep saying it over and over again, don't think that people in your workplaces are not watching that permission and thinking that it gives them permission to talk to you anyway.
That's right. So the moral of the story, folks, is we have work to do, and don't leave your power on the table. Don't leave your power on the table. So look, we're about to get the hook, and we have been told we have time for 2 questions for Sherilyn. So let me be clear, it's a question. Not a comment, but a question. So if we have 2 questions, you can come. I think, is there a mics around somewhere? I can't see. Okay, I have a hand up over here. We have a question. Yes.
Hi, my name is Jovelyn Pettis. I just have to say I saved my little penny so I can make sure that I heard you this morning. So that's my comment, sorry. Question, how do we, with George, of course the death of George Foreman is terrible, but with that, there was an opportunity for white people to feel guilt and like, hey, this is not okay. So how can we continue to encourage that allyship, because we do need them, whether you like it or not, to keep them on board and associate what you said as far as, hey, this is not just civil rights, this is about democracy and moving it away from your, Putin's and Trump and your authoritarianism. So do you have any advice or generalism or resources or anything that can assist me, a little black girl in Pittsburgh that works for a small company that saved our pennies to get here but truly believes in the cause?
Thank you, and I'm so glad you said that. Allyship is going to be key here. Allyship with white people. I've spent a lot of time in the last year being very explicit in my and in compelling our allyship with the Asian American community that's been suffering with this terrible rise in hate crimes. And I've done lots of public events so people can see it and understand the importance of that allyship. The same with many white people who are allies. And that's one of the hopeful things about this, too. It's not just the awfulness has been revealed. What has also been revealed are some extraordinary, strong white allies who believe in justice and equality. And you're absolutely right, we have to continue making space for them. It's one of the reasons why when I go out and speak, often this is not the room, right, where I am talking directly to them. And prepared to engage with them on these issues and to find places where we can find some common ground. And so I would suggest continuing to do that. As I said, LDF's website, which is www.naacpldf.org, and we are a separate organization from the NAACP and have been since 1957, is chock full of information. It's just, you put in the search what you want to know about, and there's usually something that gives you some of the information that you need.
Excellent.
So please use that as a resource as well.
Excellent, thank you. One last question. Do we have another one? Yes, right over here.
Hi, Nicole Anderson from NAL Speakers Bureau. I'm president, by the way. You talked a lot about your childhood and children in particular, and I have teens. And so I agree with you that the democracy is in peril. So how do we prepare our youth to continue this fight? Because it's not going to be over in 2024 and 2026. What can we do with our teens and our children to get them prepared for the fight that's coming for them?
When my kids were young, and thank you for that question, when my kids were young, I seemed like a bore, because I was constantly I remember after the war in Afghanistan started, and this is post 9/11, and my daughter's school her class was collecting funds for people in Afghanistan, and I was outraged because I was like, aren't we bombing them? Wait, which side are we on? So I was like, you can't try to fool these kids as though we're not doing what we're doing by making them feel like they're doing something great. We're doing something that's actually harmful. And so my daughter just told me the other day, she said, I found the letter you sent the teacher. Mom, come on, man, So I used to hate it. There was a big march against the war in Iraq, and I took my daughters. It was 17 degrees in Washington, D.C. I still remember it. I have pictures. We made them wake up in the morning, make signs and everything. They were like, oh, my God. I did feel like, have I risked their lives? I took them to the to President Obama's inauguration. It was like 12 degrees. My middle daughter literally had frostbite. I was like, you're a terrible mom. But I made them engage. My daughters will say right now that NPR gives them a headache because that's what was on when I drove them to school and when I drove them home. But all of them are in the family business of service. You know, they are, you know, my middle daughter's an environmentalist, my younger daughter's huge in gender studies, my oldest daughter is amazing special ed, you know,
awesome.
Teacher and advocate. So they get absorbed, and now we talk about this stuff all the time, right? They're absorbing it. So take them out to the march with you, or take them to, you know, the city council meeting, or they'll be bored, they're gonna say, why are we here? It doesn't matter. You're showing them the expectation of civic engagement. You're showing them that there's a role for you to play even though it's not your job. And so I think that's what we have to do with our young people now, because they do, and they're smart, they know, they're seeing stuff too. They know exactly what's going on. But showing them and making it part of what our family does, you know, that we engage in this way is incredibly important, whether it's poll watching or voter registration, and let them see you reading the ballot and getting familiar with the ballot before you vote. There are all kinds of ways that you're sending signals to them about what's important. And even if they're rolling their eyes now, it gets in them, and it prepares them to be the next set of troops for the battle.
Excellent, excellent. So again, ladies, the message, do not leave your power on the table.
Leave no power on the table.
And don't let your kids either. Sherilyn, it's been a pleasure. This has been awesome. Thank you so much. Let's give Sherilyn a round of applause. Great. Absolutely.
Wow, ladies. Let's give Michelle and Sherilyn another round of applause. I don't know about you all, but I feel fired up and ready to go and ready to get to work. Thank you, ladies, for the amazing dynamic conversation. Thank you again to Prudential for a wonderful program. Ladies, enjoy the rest of this afternoon session. Be sure to visit the expo hall and make it a powerful and productive day. So long. Take care, ladies. Thank you.
What would you call a joy that knows no bounds? That is as solemn as it is sweet, with an outpouring of soul that connects us. Joy in resilience, joy in creativity, joy in happiness, joy in strength. What would you call a joy that knows no bounds? A joy supreme. AARP celebrates Black joy. Visit us at aarp.org/Black community.